I'm gonna start crying. I don't want to start crying though.
It forces you to challenge what you want out of life when you don't know how long your life's gonna be. Like you're sitting there looking at a 2-week-old baby and you're like, are they even gonna know me?
Come sit down here.
I don't like being on camera.
I know you don't like being on camera. I think we need to talk about it, and
I do talk about it quite a bit.
yeah, but we haven't updated YouTube about it. And maybe it'll help other families, who knows. Today's video, we have some special guests. We have our 8-month-old son, Theo, and then this is my husband, Ben.
Hello.
I don't think you've ever been on the YouTube video
No, I have
formally
not.
like this. So this video, as you can tell by the title already, is kind of a life update. It's been a long time coming, but we've just been so busy, obviously. I thought it was probably time for us to share with YouTube, you know, what's been going on. Obviously, if you are very close to me, then you probably know this already. Or if you're following me on Instagram or Facebook, then you are updated with our current life situation and everything that's been happening. So to give some background to this video, honestly, we should probably bring it back to like over a year ago. Like even before we were married. Ben had some weird symptoms of like black stool and everything.
Anemia,
And this was back in what, 2023? And they just said it was like some rare first blood vessel in his GI tract. He had to have like a colonoscopy, an upper endoscopy, and then he had to like have a pill endoscopy where he swallows like a camera and it looks at his entire GI tract, and they couldn't really find anything. You know, the symptoms kind of stopped over a year. So
also I got iron infusions, which helped the anemia, so it kind of treated the underlying symptoms, but not really what was actually causing it. It was kind of a misdiagnosis, but
at first. Fast forward to May 2024, I have Theo, and then about 2 weeks later, Ben starts to develop kind of similar symptoms that he was having like a year prior. So he contacts his GI doctor. They were kind of like, okay,
keep your eye on it.
Let's keep your eye on it, and you know, if your symptoms worsen, then we can redo the tests and stuff. His symptoms of anemia like got really, really bad to where I was like, we need to go to the hospital. We went to the hospital, to the emergency room. They said, yeah, he's got blood in his stool. We're gonna admit him because your anemia, it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't horrible, but it was anemic.
But they wanted to figure out like what was causing
like this is happening again. We essentially got an upper endoscopy. And from there...
So when they did the upper endoscopy, they came back to the room and was like, well, we found something on the endoscopy. We found kind of
something pushing against my stomach, and they really downplayed it extremely. Like, they really didn't think it was going to be...
what it was, right?
What it ended up being.
So that led them to getting additional imaging that Ben never had before. Yeah, so they obtained a CT scan, and that's what actually found, like, a mass in his... it showed a mass in his small intestine. So from there, they kind of gave us a bunch of different potential diagnoses of what it could be. They said it could be benign or it could be cancerous, right? They wanted to move forward and biopsy the actual mass because they didn't know what it was.
They biopsied it and it pretty much confirmed that it was the rare GIST, Gastrointestinal Stromal Tumor. Diagnosed with it at the end of May, so probably May 30th.
Can we give a little bit of background of what that is? Because it is super, super rare.
Yeah, it's a rare form of sarcoma. It's always going to develop, not always, but generally where it's initially going to develop. Small intestine, stomach is a lot of the time, esophagus, kind of anywhere.
In the digestive system.
Outside of the GI tract. Metastasizes, I mean, it can go anywhere.
What's the odds of having it? It's so rare that it's like 1 in however much.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's incredibly, it's shocking that it actually happened.
The incidence of having a GIST is 10 to 15 cases per million worldwide, so roughly around 5,000 cases a year. So it's extremely rare in the cancer world. Breaking it down, it's even more rare for a younger person to be diagnosed with it because they're diagnosed later in life, like 70s, 80s. Actually, a lot of them are diagnosed usually when they do rupture. So
yeah, it's because it can be very asymptomatic.
Yeah, people can go for a very, very long time without even knowing that they have it, and then it gets diagnosed once it becomes a problem, basically.
Yeah, like they can be huge. They can be up to like, I don't know, not up to, but I mean, I've seen things that are like 30 centimeters, and mine was like 5 centimeters.
And the location of where it is kind of determines the prognosis in a way.
Yeah, generally the ones in the stomach compared to, say, like where mine was on the small intestine.
The lower it is in the GI tract, the more aggressive tumor
So
is.
what we did is, instead of having, like a local surgeon,
I looked up basically like GIST specialists in the area, and there's actually a sarcoma group that specializes in GIST at Moffitt Cancer Centers. So we got in with the surgeon there. Ben saw him on Monday, and he was like, I'm scheduling you for surgery on Friday, because they really wanted to get it out. And it's a research hospital, so
they wanted that tumor.
They wanted a tumor just because of how rare this is, and what they can get from it as far as research goes. Basically, when it comes to getting diagnosed with a GIST, kind of the approach that they take as far as treatment goes is either depending on how large the tumor is and like your risk factors, right?
One general treatment that, depending on your mutation, which fortunately I had definitely the most common mutation. There's a pill called imatinib, or the brand name of it is Gleevec, and depending on the size of it, like I said, it can be up to like, 30-ish centimeters. Like if you're in that boat, it's probably very, very likely you're going to take the pill first to shrink the tumor. And if you shrink the tumor, it makes the surgery more operable. Whereas like mine was, fortunately it was in a spot that was operable. Right away, you're going to go ahead and take it out with surgery. And that surgery was...
X-lap.
I was in the hospital for about a week. I think it was 6 days, about a week. That was
It
pretty
was rough.
terrible. The surgeon explains it and you're thinking it's not really that... It doesn't sound too bad. I mean, people do this all the time. The pain, definitely extremely painful. But the worst part really was, one, you're definitely going to have a catheter. It really doesn't take much imagination to understand why a catheter would suck, especially with it being removed. At least they put it in when I was asleep. Definitely pulled it out while I was awake. It still does nothing really compared to the NG tube, the nasogastro tube. So
that was like the worst thing.
That is essentially a tube right through your nose all the way into your stomach. Because they just sawed half your intestines in half. You can't have stuff going through there until it has at least a little bit of time to heal. That tube is just sucking out every single thing that goes into your stomach. I don't know. It felt like an eternity, and I think mine was removed after maybe like the 4th morning, something like that. And I think the nurse said she's never seen one be removed faster than that. Again, a lot of people that
But it was like frustrating because they kept saying, oh, until you have a bowel movement or until like you're moving gas and you can have it taken out, and not the case.
No, it's not. It really depends on the amount of liquid that's coming out of it.
Yeah, the output.
But either way, mine came out the fastest that the nurse has ever seen it, and I still, so.
Yeah, that
if I
was
have
rough.
to get anything ever again, that'll be the first thing I think of, is if I have to get one of those things.
Spent about almost a week in the hospital, and then
They
he
say
got
the
discharged.
recovery is about 6 weeks. I mean, after 6 weeks you can do stuff, but it's definitely not healed yet. I don't know, it's now January, so it's been 7 months, not 6 weeks, and now I can say I'm pretty much restriction free. But it took a very long time for it to heal.
Yeah, it did.
And I mean, you still feel it, so it doesn't really go away quickly. It takes a long time, but in general, it's pretty much fine.
And bear with us. We have Theo here right now. After having the surgery, Ben has to be on basically what we call like a targeted...
TKI, they call it, it's really called like immunotherapy is the preferred word
Yeah,
for
they
it.
don't call it chemotherapy, but that's
It's
just what I call it.
I mean, it's a chemo pill, but at the same time, it's definitely not.
It's not like
chemo.
like you're gonna lose your hair and
No.
stuff like that.
Well,
Like
no, there are
everyone
pills.
typically thinks
There
that
are
that's
treatment
what it
plans
is.
down. This one, it's actually generally really well tolerated. Yeah, so I take that once a day. It's 400 milligrams. Kind of one of those things where you just kind of have to accept it, and it's your life now.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect. There's going to be times you take it and you're really nauseous. There's times where it causes all sorts of GI issues. It could either be
Rash, like you have like a severe rash.
rash that kind of flares up at times. Neuropathy is a thing that I have as well. Like it's mainly like the nausea and the GI issues of you're either taking Imodium all the time, or the opposite problem where definitely don't need Imodium. So
From here, he kind of has to get scans done, and that means like a CT scan done every 3 months. He also has to get labs done as well, just to check and make sure the tumor has not come back. And that's going to be for the next 3 years. And then it goes to every like 6 months after that, I think.
a big driving factor in reoccurrence is the size. Has it metastasized? That's just as simple as, do you have one tumor, or do you have a bunch of tumors? Or 2 tumors, that would mean it metastasized. I had 1 tumor, so that's like a good thing. Size size of it, if it's greater than 5 centimeters, it's higher risk. The last factor, which is mitotic rate, which it's not exactly like how fast is it growing, but kind of is. Essentially, it's just like the rate at which the cells are dividing. With that, like mine was also on the higher end as well. I think it was like 7 out of 10. So with
the first oncologist that we saw,
yeah, but that's why I'm saying
he said
so,
it's not high risk because the biopsy. Yep.
The biopsy said it was a lower mitotic rate, but that's just one piece of it. Whereas like, it's much better to analyze this thing with the full tumor once it's removed. The reason why you don't always get the privilege of knowing before is because once you've started the like imatinib treatment or any treatment and it's shrinking the size of it, like obviously it's trying to kill the cancer, which it never really like kills it, it just shrinks it and slows it down, like stunts it. If you got it removed afterwards, really you're not going to get any viable information from the tumor after because it's already been subjected to like the TKI therapy.
Yeah, so when we saw the specialist at Moffitt, he said he doesn't really go off of the biopsy because it's only that specific spot. He likes to get the full tumor and to send it off and analyze it to see the mitotic rate from that tumor itself.
Yeah.
If you are tuning into this video because maybe you have been diagnosed with a GIST and don't know where to go, I would say the first thing you should do is see a GIST specialist if you can.
You definitely want to go to a specialist for this and not just your general oncologist, because you're not going to know all the really nuanced details of this specific thing. Anything, if you have anything that's rare or anything, you should just go see a specialist.
Absolutely. Get second opinion, third opinion, whatever you need to do. Whenever he was first diagnosed, an oncologist paired up with him, like from the hospital that we went to. So that's why I kind of went and researched GIST specialists in the area because they know what they're working with. A generalized oncologist, yes, they may see like one GIST maybe their lifetime, but that might be it. And go ahead and go over to what's called the Life Raft group. They have a lot of information. I'll have their website linked in the description below. But they have a lot of information on GIST and basically anything you need to know. They have a checklist of questions to ask your oncologist. Ask the specialist. They have a list of GIST specialists that could be close to you. So I highly recommend going to that website and looking that up.
You know, you go to the emergency room. Having been there a year before, you're thinking like, same thing happened. We'll get this sorted out. We'll figure it out. You know, maybe this happens every once in a while.
Yeah, you think it's going to be something simple, right?
And, you really don't think it's a big deal. And then, the doctor comes in and grabs a chair, pulls out the chair and says, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Yeah, he pulls out the chair and sits down, and it's just like, thoughts that run through your head are everywhere. Like, it's not good if they're pulling out the chair.
Yeah.
So you have moments where
your heart just stops.
Yeah, you just get told you have cancer. You have no idea. They don't even know because, like, this is such a niche thing. Every single thought goes through your mind. Like, you're sitting there looking at a 2-week-old baby, and you're like, are they even going to know me? You have thoughts like that go through your head, and it's a very, very scary place. Is my wife going to raise our son by herself? That's going through your head. She's going to be a young widow. And, the reason why, you wait 8 months to do this is because I can say those things now and, like... Not cry your eyes out. Yeah, essentially.
So it may seem like we're a little emotionless right now, but we have our ups and downs. And me as a medical provider, this was 2 weeks after having my son, I felt like I had to be so strong and I couldn't cry, and, like, the family was looking to me for answers.
And I disagree with that. Yeah. There's no playbook. There's no right way to react.
I hid a lot of how I felt in that time.
And, fast forward, now you're at surgery, and it's like, is this just going to be my life, recovering from surgery half a year every single year? Deep emotions you have to figure out, and a lot of it's going to either be anxiety or depression, but, like, you're either looking into the future and you're scared, or you're looking in the past, and you're like, why me? Why me is a very common emotion, I would think, for a lot of people with cancer. I mean, like, I had to go to therapy. Like, these aren't things you figure out. Like, you kind of walk... Like, an emotion I had was like, all right, well, I gotta try, because I don't like just being the miserable person in the corner and everyone feeling bad for you. Like, it's not fun being that person. You just try to live in the moment. Just try to live in your moment and make the best of what you have. Really, I think a big thing, especially like the surgery, was really focusing on the things you can do. Like, for a while, it was rough there with the surgery, but, like...
And the recovery, like, you felt
I mean, I pretty much can do whatever I want at this point. And, like, that's not the case for a lot of people. But in those times where you can't, the best thing that worked for me was just, like, writing down things I'm thankful for, focusing on the things you can do. Like, okay, I can at least still go outside and go for a walk. And that's better than sitting inside just thinking about things.
I'm gonna start crying. I don't want to start crying, though. That's not the purpose of me filming this.
Crying. There's obviously a whole other side of it that is like deeply emotional.
Especially
like
getting this
trauma.
diagnosis 2 weeks after having our first son. It's taken us probably this long to even sit down and talk about it.
That long just to process everything in a way that's not.
And I think I'm still processing it as well.
I mean, you're constantly always processing. I mean, every step there's something new, but I mean, it's your life now, and your life is different. It's more like, no, you can't like just wallow in misery, but like you're gonna have moments. It's a deeply emotional thing, whereas like everything explained out.
So from my point of view, well, I think for you too, like it just puts a lot of things into perspective of what's important and what's not. It's been hard to go through our regular routine whenever this huge thing has happened, right? Like you can't, it's hard to just go back to like normal.
It forces you to challenge what you want out of life. We don't know how long your life's going to be. Benefit, if you will, of it is it has made us challenge what you want out of life. And it's not something that many 29-year-old new parents have to do.
Yeah.
But it's made you challenge something, and like things that used to feel like a big risk, like changing a job, just things that you're like, oh, I can't do that. They're like nothing now. Like tough conversations, like it's nothing now. I've had the toughest conversations. You just want to be at peace at things. It's not like being falsely positive and hopeful about things. You have to just be at peace with your diagnosis. This is your life now. Just live every day the best you can. Cliche, but it's really what you try to do. Just find little things that are helpful. For example, like in the beginning, it was writing down things I'm grateful for. That helped me kind of get my head up and outside and doing things. Now it's like, okay, like I'm not just going to sit here and be anxious about a scan. You're getting pretty good medical care at that point. You just have to trust the process with it. But you can't just be like, oh, I have a stomach ache and it's back and my life's over.
So it's definitely been a challenging 8 months. I think we're going to end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you have any questions or just want to talk, if you've been diagnosed with the same thing, then feel free to reach out. That's kind of where we're at. We will update you guys along the way if Ben feels open to updating, but everything is good right now. And
I'm at peace.
Ben's at peace. I don't know if I'm at peace yet. But yeah, we have a long journey ahead of us. Ben has lots of years of life left. Very optimistic.
Takes a while to think that, but I do think that.
It does. It's taken 8 months to kind of get here, but we're optimistic and we are going to live our life to the fullest. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and see you in the next one. Bye. What do you have to say?